Welcome to East by West Farms. Here we grow what we eat, and we eat what we grow. Today I'm going to show you what plants we want to overwinter for next year. You can see behind me that the garden looks pretty barren. You're right, because we just got a freeze around Thanksgiving, so that killed most of the summer plant, and this patch was full of sweet potatoes, and of course that's all gone. But that doesn't mean that that's the end of the growth season. Around this time we're trying to think of what we want to grow next year and plan for next year. So one thing that we want to experiment is overwinter some plants so that we can get a kickstart for next spring. Because in Texas, the growth season is so short that we're trying to extend the growth season as much as possible. And the one way to do that is overwinter the plants so that we can get a kickstart in spring. This is a pepper plant. I was planning to save it and over winter. Over here, sometimes the weather forecast is not very accurate, so I thought it was okay to leave it outside, and then we got hit by a freeze. So you can see that the top is all dried up, and of course the pepper is not much useful, but we might be able to get some seeds out of it. If I look carefully, I actually can see that they are trying to sprout new leaves, because after the freeze, we have pretty warm temperature. That's just Texas. The plant definitely is still alive. So basically what we're trying to do is just to remember to bring it in when the weather forecast says it might have a freeze, and to see if we can keep this alive, and it might even grow new leaves. Then in spring we can get cuttings from this, then grow pepper from there. This one is a cherry tomato. You can see that it's still very healthy. It was actually outside. Depends on where you put your pots, the microclimate actually is different. So this one actually survived the freeze and still looks very healthy and have fruits. That probably is the one that we're trying to keep alive through the winter and then get cuttings. They grow from cutting very easily. So say in March, I will start to get cuttings and then in pots and then transplanted in the garden. So hopefully we will get a few plants out of here in spring. Another plant that we're trying to overwinter is this lemongrass. I bought just a bundle of lemongrass from the Asian store and put them in water, and then let it grow roots and plant it in the garden during summer. It become huge bushes that I was able to get quite some lemongrass out of it. Before the freeze hit, I actually dug up one big bush and divided up. I think I ended up like 10 lemongrass pots. This is one of them. It's actually started growing again, so that's a good sign. That means it's established in the pot over here. I'm trying to keep it in the pot over winter. Since here we only get like cold snap once in a while, we just need to protect it during those cold snap, and they should do well in winter. Then when spring comes, I can plant them in the garden. That way I don't need to buy the lemongrass from the Asian store to restart it. That's one plant that I'm trying to grow through winter. This one is actually papayas that I grow from seeds. Papaya basically, It's a fast-growing plant, and I think it can produce papaya in 8 months or so. If I start the seed in the fall, and I can keep it through winter, then next year I will get probably papaya that producing. They look very healthy over here. They're too dense, but right now I think it's okay. If I can keep them through winter, when the warm temperature come, I will divide it up and plant it in the garden for papaya. So we'll see if we get papaya fruit out of these plants. What I have in this box here is some sweet potatoes that I'm trying to overwinter and then get slip out of this for the summer planting. I dug up some of the sweet potatoes and also get some of these baby sweet potatoes. This year we have very dry summer, so they didn't grow much. But this could be growing slip for next year, so that's why I saved them. So if I leave this in the ground, they usually don't like cold and wet, and then they will just rot. So I basically put one layer of clay, dry clay, and then put my sweet potato, and then I covered with this clay. That will keep it in the right condition, that it can stay through winter. Then when the weather warms, I don't know, they have a biological clock and they know when they will start to send slips, and then I can use those slips to start next year's crop. That will be our sweet potato box for next year. This is a fig tree that I bought from a yard sale 2 years ago. Last winter, I put it in the ground. I think we had a video on that and planted. And we got a deep freeze, so it's actually died down all the way to the bottom. So all this you see here are this year's growth. I don't know how cold we will get, so all this top might again die back, but that doesn't matter because the fig will grow on the first year. So supposedly next year for the new growth, we should get figs. Now actually it's a good time to populate the fig tree. So what I'm going to do is basically get cuttings. This is about pencil size, so that's perfect size. So I'm going to cut right below the leaf node over here, and that's where it's going to grow new roots. So for this is kind of funny looking, so I'm going to cut all this down. If I want it to grow a little bit out, I actually will cut this one out also. That's the one that if it survives, it will continue growing. If not, it will grow out over here. So I want to really extend out. This one probably is too short, but it's growing inward, so I'm just going to cut it. These are okay. The same thing with this one, so I'm just pruned over here. Of course, I need to come in to take all the grass out and mulch it so that the root ball will be it will survive the winter. For this one, probably I actually don't think I need this one because it's going straight up. So I'm going to cut the whole thing, so that will give me a big cutting here. The smaller one, of course, is not going to do anything, so I'm going to just prune that. So now we have a very nice scaffolded fig tree that is kind of going out. Next year, hopefully we'll get some figs, and we'll get more fig plants that I'm going to plant all over the farm over here. To root these fig tree cuttings, I'm just going to mix some of the wood chips with the clay soil we have, and that's going to be my growth medium. The wood chip make it drains easier because the clay hold water pretty well. The cutting doesn't need a whole lot of nitrogen, so that's not a problem. And by the time in spring when the cutting needs nitrogen, this wood chip should be pretty much decomposed done and become the growth medium for the fig tree. I have 1 leaf nodes down here, so I probably will bury just 2 leaf nodes. So in case the bottom one doesn't grow root, there's another one, so just a little bit safety. And that's pretty much it. If you put a heat mat underneath, it will root easier. But you can see that I'm still on t-shirt, so it's still pretty warm over here. This buds might even break when we put it over here that is protected. So we will see. I have quite a few from the fig tree, so hopefully some will survive. Hopefully we'll get, if we get 50% success rate, we will have 4 or 5 fig tree next year. So we had a big tall pepper tree over here. The freeze killed it. I start to prune it down. But when I get to the bottom, I actually notice that it still have some green over here. That means that the root is still alive. So it just, the top get killed by the freeze. Of course, if I leave it here, it's not going to survive the winter. I don't think it will have a good chance. So if I dig it up and put it in the pot, I might be able to keep it through winter. All right, so let me get all this. To get a reasonably good size root ball. So let's see, I can fit it in here. And get some of this native soil in there. What I need is water it and put it in a kind of protected area. So in spring, hopefully, if I can keep it through winter, in spring it starts to sprout out. I can even take cuttings from it to plant it in the ground, so I don't need seed the pepper. Well, that's an experiment I'm going to try. Worth trying. To finish off this video, I'm going to show you a secret plant. So I have a secret plant over here, and let's see if we can find it. These are master greens. They are pretty hard, winter hardy, so they don't get damaged by the freeze at all. You can see that it's lush green and it's beautiful over here. There's a pepper plant over here, look like all dried up. When I take the pull away the master greens, I actually see 2 peppers over here that I can actually probably show the harvest. But the nice thing is you can see this pepper plant, actually the leaves are still green. See the big difference between these leaves and those leaves? The master green really shielded from the freeze. So my secret plan is to leave this pepper in here. I think the root, where is the root of this guy? I think the root is somewhere. It's over here. Because of the protection of this master green, it look like the pepper is still healthy. So I'm going to just leave it. Essentially, the pepper plant is going to be surrounded by all the master greens. And we'll see if we will be able to keep this plant alive through winter. And if that works, that will be great. So we essentially create a barrier or protect it using the master green. And then we can have another year of harvest from this pepper plant. In this video, I showed you a few plants that we're trying to overwinter, and so that we can look forward to next year's garden. But in Texas, actually, we can grow a lot of things over winter. You can see behind me that the arugula is actually blooming, and the bees love it. This field over here used to be full of sweet potatoes, and of course the freeze killed it. After that, I actually planted garlic over here, and you can see that they start to sprout it already. So probably in 2 weeks, this area will be full of garlic greens. People grow garlics for the bulbs. I actually grow the garlic greens for cooking. They're very flavorful. It's a very traditional winter dish for me. In next video, I'm going to show what we can grow in the garden even in winter for Texas. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumb up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it down below. If you have not done so, please hit the subscribe button to follow our journey with the East by West Farms.